You believe you know the heart of ancient Israel's diet. You picture the sun-baked landscapes, a shepherd gnawing on a piece of unleavened bread, perhaps sipping common wine, sustenance born of necessity and scarcity. You envision a stark existence, defined by simple grains and the sparse fruits of a demanding land. But what if the truth was far more opulent, more diverse, more astonishing than you could ever imagine? What if the very definition of bread and wine has blinded us to a secret tapestry of flavors, a hidden bounty that sustained a people chosen by the divine? You stand now on the dusty fringes of the Judean wilderness, the air thick with the scent of ancient herbs and unseen dangers. The sun beats down, relentless, yet beneath your feet, the nascent shoots of wild barley whisper secrets. A nomadic tent sways in the distance, a wisp of smoke curling from its opening, hinting at a meal being prepared. But what precisely simmers in that clay pot? What forgotten ingredients, what surprising delights did the families of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob truly partake in? For centuries, the conventional wisdom has reduced their daily sustenance to a handful of staples. Yet the earth itself, through the archaeologist's spade and the scholar's meticulous gaze, is beginning to tell a different, more vibrant story. A story that challenges our preconceived notions of biblical life and calls into question the very simplicity we have ascribed to their existence. So, as we prepare to uncover these timeless truths, if you find value in this journey, consider leaving a like to support the channel. It makes a huge difference. Now, we urge you, share your initial thoughts on this hidden culinary world in the comments below. What do you think they ate beyond the obvious? Now, still your heart and open your mind. The veil of history is about to be torn away. Our revelation begins. You are there in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Sinai wilderness, the very ground you tread echoing with the murmurs of a million souls, the children of Israel, newly delivered from the crushing yoke of Egypt. Hunger gnaws at them, a visceral, gnawing beast far more terrifying than any pharaoh. You hear the desperate cries, the lamentations for the fleshpots of Egypt, for the leeks, onions, and garlic, even the cucumbers and melons they once enjoyed in slavery. It is a moment of profound crisis, a test of faith where the very survival of a nascent nation hangs by the thread of divine provision. Then you witness it, the miraculous phenomenon of the manna, a fine, flake-like thing, as fine as hoarfrost on the ground, appearing each morning with the dew. This ethereal bread from heaven, sustenance unlike any they had ever known, became their daily bread for 40 long years, a constant, tangible reminder of God's direct intervention. You learn to gather it, to grind it, to bake it into cakes, its taste like wafers made with honey. But this miraculous bread, while supernatural, was never meant to be their only food, nor was it the defining characteristic of the Promised Land's sustenance. It was a temporary wilderness diet, a profound lesson in reliance, yet a far cry from the rich, diverse bounty that awaited them. As you journey forward with this multitude, moving from the barren desert into the fertile crescent, you begin to grasp the sheer abundance that awaited the Israelites, an abundance that archaeological digs and ancient texts now vividly confirm. Forget the simplistic image of a land yielding only wheat and grapes. This was a land overflowing with an exquisite variety of produce, a true Garden of Eden compared to the arid lands they had traversed. From the tells and ancient refuse heaps, the seeds of forgotten meals emerge, telling a vibrant story. You discover the charred remains of figs, the pits of dates, the shells of pistachios and almonds, all testifying to a far richer diet than previously assumed. These were not mere occasional treats. They were staples, dried for preservation, pressed into cakes for energy, and integrated into every aspect of their cuisine. The olive tree, revered then as now, provided not only its fruit but its precious oil, used for cooking, light, and anointing, a fundamental fat source in a diet mostly devoid of animal fats. Pomegranates, with their ruby-red arils, symbolized fertility and abundance, their juice a sweet refreshment. Consider the humble lentil, often overlooked, yet a powerhouse of nutrition in the ancient world. You are told of Esau selling his birthright for a bowl of red stew, a dish almost certainly made from lentils, demonstrating its significant value as a hearty, satisfying meal. Chickpeas, fava beans, and various other pulses formed the backbone of many meals, providing essential protein in a largely vegetarian diet. These legumes were dried and stored, ensuring sustenance throughout the year, even when fresh produce was scarce. You encounter the forgotten grains, not just common wheat and barley, but emmer, spelt, and millet, each contributing distinct textures and flavors to their breads and porridges. These ancient varieties, now experiencing a resurgence in modern health circles, were the very foundation of their agricultural strength, showcasing a sophisticated understanding of crop rotation and land management far beyond what modern narratives often imply. Josephus, the first-century Jewish historian, paints a vivid picture of Judea's extraordinary fertility. The country is throughout rich and suitable for the most distinct kinds of produce, for not only are the more delicate kinds of plants to be found there, but also those species of plants which are hardy and thrive on rough soils. The country also produces, in addition to this, all kinds of fruit trees and vines and nuts. He speaks of springs of very sweet water and palm trees of various sorts. His accounts, while sometimes prone to exaggeration, nonetheless corroborate the archaeological evidence of a land bursting with agricultural potential. You discern from his writings that the Israelites utilized this bounty with remarkable skill, not just for survival, but for a varied and flavorful culinary tradition. Even the animal protein, though less prominent than plant-based foods, was more diverse than commonly thought. While sheep and goats provided milk, cheese, and occasional meat, and the quails in the wilderness were a singular event, you learn that domestic fowl like pigeons and doves were raised for consumption. You see the evidence of fishing in the Galilean region, where the Sea of Galilee provided a steady supply of various species, dried and salted for transport. The laws of kashrut, meticulously detailed in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, while restricting certain foods, paradoxically highlight the existence of a vast array of available animals, birds, and fish, forcing the Israelites to discern between the clean and the unclean, demonstrating a broad spectrum from which to choose. For example, the detailed listing of clean and unclean birds, Leviticus 11:13-19, reveals a comprehensive awareness of the avian life in their environment, far beyond simple domesticates. Non-canonical texts, too, offer glimpses into this rich diet. The Book of Jubilees, for instance, emphasizes the importance of specific feasts, often tied to agricultural cycles and the first fruits, underscoring the deep connection between their faith, their land, and their food. While not detailing specific recipes, it reinforces the centrality of the harvest to their spiritual life. You are made to ponder the implications of this hidden abundance. Did their understanding of divine sustenance evolve from the singular, miraculous manna to the diverse, yet equally divine, bounty of the promised land, challenging their very definition of daily bread? Was the journey from the stark simplicity of manna to the lavish complexity of Canaanite produce a test of their gratitude? A reminder that God provides not just survival, but thriving. For centuries, the faithful have wrestled with the question of whether a true spiritual life demands asceticism or embraces the richness of creation. How did the Israelites reconcile the divine miracle of provision with the hard-won labor of the harvest? And what lessons did this paradox embed within their spiritual DNA? This deeper understanding of their diet forces you to reevaluate the very nature of biblical provision, illustrating that the divine hand provides not just the basic necessities, but often an overflowing cornucopia of delightful and surprising blessings. The raw earth, as you've now come to understand, yielded an astonishing catalog of sustenance. But the ancient Israelite relationship with food transcended mere survival. It was elevated, enshrouded in the sacred, woven into the very fabric of their covenant with the divine. You are transported now to a night charged with destiny, the very air thick with anticipation and dread. You stand on the threshold of a humble Israelite home in Goshen, Egypt, the scent of roasting lamb mingling with the sharp aroma of bitter herbs. This is the night of the Passover, a foundational event where every ingredient on the table speaks volumes. You watch as families huddle, the blood on their doorposts a stark, chilling symbol of protection, and partake of the hastily prepared meal. Unblemished lamb, roasted whole, unleavened bread, matzah, and bitter herbs, maror. Each element is not just food, but a potent, living memorial, a tangible link to suffering and miraculous deliverance. The matzah, flat and unadorned, forever reminds them of the hurried flight, no time for dough to rise. The bitter herbs, often wild lettuce or chicory, evoke the gall of slavery. The lamb, sacrificed and consumed, embodies the divine intervention that spared their firstborn. This meal, eaten in haste, with loins girded and staffs in hand, was the ultimate sacred banquet, a ritual so profound it would echo through millennia, transforming the act of eating into an eternal act of remembrance and identity. This ritualistic consumption was not an isolated incident, but a pervasive theme, demonstrating that the Israelite table, whether in the desert or the Promised Land, was often a sacred space. Beyond the private Passover, you discover the communal feasts, the pilgrimage festivals where vast quantities of food were prepared and consumed in the presence of God. You witness the bringing of first fruits to the tabernacle, then later to the temple in Jerusalem, the finest of the harvest. Ripe figs, luscious pomegranates, golden wheat, fresh olive oil, and date honey. These weren't mere offerings, they were a testimony of gratitude, a recognition that every single kernel, every drop of oil, every cluster of grapes was a gift from the Almighty. The priestly portions of sacrifices, consumed by the Kohanim within the holy precincts, further blurred the line between the physical and the spiritual, turning a meal into an act of worship. Archaeological excavations have uncovered numerous communal ovens and vast storage facilities within ancient Israelite cities, providing tangible evidence of large-scale food preparation for gatherings, feasts, and periods of scarcity, underscoring the deep social and religious significance of shared meal. The very design of Israelite homes, with their central courtyards and open hearths, suggests that food preparation and consumption were communal affairs, vital to family and community cohesion. The meticulous dietary laws of kashrut, detailed in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, further solidify this profound intertwining of food and faith. You are taught that not all animals, not all fish, not all birds were deemed clean for consumption. The pig, so common in surrounding cultures, was an abhorrence. Shellfish, abundant in the Mediterranean, forbidden. You are moved to consider the revolutionary nature of these laws, not just as health regulations, but as a demarcation, a spiritual boundary. These rules transformed daily meals into acts of piety, constantly reminding the Israelites of their unique status as a holy nation, set apart for God. Josephus elaborates on the devout adherence to these laws, even under Roman persecution, highlighting instances where Jews would rather face death than consume forbidden foods. He describes the rigorous methods of purification and preparation required for temple sacrifices and the daily lives of observant Jews, emphasizing the profound spiritual discipline embedded in their culinary practices. This level of detail and adherence suggests a society where food was a constant, tangible expression of their covenant with God, a self-imposed discipline that set them apart from the polytheistic nations around them who consumed without such divine mandates. The lost context from non-canonical texts offers even more layers of understanding to this sacred culinary landscape. The Book of Jubilees, for instance, provides additional insights into the observance of various feasts, often emphasizing the precise timing and agricultural products associated with them, reinforcing the divine order inherent in their dietary calendar. You discover that some sectarian groups, like those associated with the Dead Sea Scrolls, may have practiced even stricter dietary regulations, bordering on asceticism, further illustrating the diverse interpretations and profound spiritual significance placed upon food within ancient Israel. Their emphasis on ritual purity extended not just to the preparation of food, but to the communal meals themselves, often viewed as sacred gatherings that mirrored the heavenly banquet. This reveals a spectrum of engagement with the divine through food, from the societal adherence to kashrut to the intense personal discipline of specific movements. Moreover, you learn that honey, derived not just from bees but often from dates, date honey or dibs, was a significant sweetener and energy source. Spices, though not grown locally in large quantities, were traded extensively along ancient routes. Cinnamon, cassia, myrrh, frankincense, though primarily used for anointing oils, perfumes, or incense in the tabernacle, suggested a broader awareness of aromatic substances that could, on occasion, find their way into medicinal concoctions or elite culinary uses, further hinting at a more complex palate than simple staples imply. You consider the biblical metaphor of a land flowing with milk and honey, not just as a promise of abundance, but of a rich, diverse, and nourishing life far removed from the austere image often painted. Consider the role of beverages beyond wine. While wine was central to feasts and communal gatherings, both daily and ritualistic, particularly in the later periods, you also learn about the consumption of various fermented fruit drinks, diluted ciders, and even primitive forms of beer made from barley. Water, of course, was paramount, but the ingenuity of ancient peoples led them to ferment whatever was available, providing both refreshment and a safe alternative when water quality was questionable. The very act of preparing these drinks, from pressing grapes to fermenting grains, was an intrinsic part of daily life and seasonal cycles, connecting them intimately with the rhythms of the earth and the blessings of the harvest. This profound connection to the land and its yield, intrinsically linked with their divine covenant, forces you to ask a soul-searching question. If every meal, every morsel, could be imbued with such profound spiritual meaning, if the very act of eating could be an act of worship, then what does it reveal about our own modern disconnect from the source of our sustenance? For centuries, theologians and common folk alike have wrestled with the question of whether our physical nourishment should always reflect our spiritual devotion. Did the Israelites, through their surprising and sacred foods, achieve a level of holistic living where the mundane and the divine were inextricably intertwined, a model perhaps lost to our own hurried, convenience-driven world? This deeper dive into their actual pantry reveals that their lives were anything but simple, and their meals were a constant, vibrant testament to a covenant that permeated every single aspect of their existence. The daily bread of ancient Israel was, in truth, a divine banquet, a surprising testament to a God who provides not just survival, but an abundance of flavor, meaning, and sacred connection. The curtain now falls on a world more vibrant and richly tasted than you could have ever imagined. The ancient Israelites, far from subsisting on a monotonous diet, were inheritors of a land flowing with astonishing abundance, a culinary tapestry woven with forgotten grains, surprising fruits, and a profound reverence for every morsel. You have journeyed through their sacred feasts, witnessed their meticulous adherence to dietary laws, and unearthed the hidden truths of their daily sustenance, revealing that their table was a training ground for devotion, a constant reminder of a covenant that permeated every aspect of their lives. This was not merely about filling bellies. It was about forging an identity, expressing gratitude, and living in constant communion with the divine. The revelation of this complex ancient diet reframes our understanding of biblical narratives, adding depth and color to every story of provision and every sacred meal. It reminds us that divine blessings are often showered upon us in the most tangible, sensory ways, demanding our gratitude and mindful consumption. Their journey from the miraculous manna in the wilderness to the diverse bounty of the promised land teaches us that God provides not only for our survival, but for our flourishing, in ways both simple and surprisingly rich. You are left with the profound truth that life in biblical times, particularly at the table, was a sophisticated dance between the earthly and the eternal, a testament to a people who saw the hand of God in every seed sown and every meal shared. What you have witnessed today transcends mere historical curiosity. It is a profound spiritual lesson. For if ancient Israel could transform common food into sacred ritual, what then of our own lives? Are we truly nourished in body and spirit by what we consume, or have we lost the sacred connection found in every provision? The echoes of their ancient banquets still resonate, calling us to a deeper gratitude, a more mindful existence, and a renewed understanding of the divine provision that sustains all of creation. Their surprising foods invite us to see the extraordinary in the ordinary and the sacred in every